Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Paul,
And we are SP Film Viewers.
and for the second instalment of what I'm calling Hitchcock Month, the film that Sophie's seen for the first time is The Birds.
Strangely, I think this is the one that I've been most aware of. My mum has kind of referred back to The Birds as a movie that she watched when she was a lot younger, and it quite petrified her, so to speak. And weirdly, I know the iconic kind of playground, just with the crows being on the playground.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I've not seen the film, that shot just of the birds.
Yeah.
For some reason I'm aware of, which is weird, really, isn't it?
I don't know if there's probably it's probably one of those things that's again sort of sprinkled into some pop culture things, like there might have been something like a parody of that in something else.
Maybe.
Perhaps. I know there was a Simpsons episode or something where that was similar, but they used dolphins instead of something that was attacking people. But there are probably other examples.
Because, like, unless you're in the sea, I don't really know how that's going to happen. But, anyways, it's like Jaws, isn't it? That's like an easy thing to kind of avoid, I feel. Like, just don't go in the water, like we've said previously. Whereas with the birds, they're everywhere, aren't they?
Yeah.
You
they
kind
have the high ground, so to speak.
Yeah, you kind of are vulnerable. You can't really hide from them.
No.
So you've got this one lady, which she's your main lady, and she's called Melanie Daniels. What a character. I was like saying to you, I don't really feel like I like her.
Yeah, she seems a very privileged,
snooty, like silver spoon. Daddy provides everything. Not saying that people like that aren't, nice people. I'm not saying that at all, but I think she's just one of those that's quite manipulative with it. Like, because she's grown up with such a privileged life, she feels like she has to get her own way with everything, it feels.
By us saying that, and probably other people have seen it as well, you kind of get that vibe straight away, because obviously within the opening minutes, you kind of get that sense of that she is that way without you having really known anything about her, really. She kind of just comes across that way.
Especially with the lady in the shop. Oh, well, you're going to have to deliver it then. If it's not here, you're going to have to deliver it. And it's like the way she was quite forthright and quite well-mannered by doing it, but at the same time being somewhat rude.
Kind of like, not quite passive-aggressive, but...
Yeah, something like that, but kind of made you feel like you were obliged to.
Yeah.
Kind of the way that she delivered it. But it's a case of I just don't seem to relate to this character very well.
Yeah. And it's within this pet shop that she meets our other male lead. That is Mitch Brenner.
Now, he's quite nice, isn't he? You don't really get to know much of him. I don't feel like as much as of her personality comes out. He's kind of like just a genuinely nice man, and that's all you kind of, I feel, is for him. It's not like I can say, oh, well, he's very smart. He seems to be a bit of a ladies' man. It seems he usually brings...
Yeah, you got that thick jawline going on, which is, quite a strong thing for a male lead to
have. And I think it's one of those, he is quite dashing. Well, to be honest, she's very, very pretty.
Yeah, I don't think you can quite put her in the same ballpark as Grace Kelly, though. But
no.
Based on that, but
completely two different standards. But I think this one's more, Grace Kelly's more naturally pretty. I would say it's more natural, whereas this is a little bit more dolled up, isn't it?
Well, Hitchcock did like to use like blondes as his leading ladies.
I've noticed that, yeah.
So far, yeah.
Kind of see this little bit of banter with Melanie and Mitch, where Mitch knows who Melanie is, but obviously Melanie doesn't have a clue of who he is, and you can kind of see this kind of relationship somewhat blossoming. She seems to be one of those girls that always gets what she wants, and then she's kind of going out of her way to pursue him. Initially, I thought it was a bit out of malice, like being intrigued to get to know him and to spite him.
Yeah.
But it kind of changes, doesn't it, as the story progresses.
Mm-hmm.
So you could kind of call it a little bit of a romance. It does have that kind of...
In a weird way, yeah, that kind of stretch of that.
Yeah, at the
word.
beginning, for the highlight of, for the most of the film, until the birds kind of become more apparent at the back end,
Yeah.
it does have that kind of romancy, kind of chicky flicky kind of feel, like boy meets girl, girls playing hard to get, which I quite enjoyed. You do get then some more developments of characters where, obviously, when she takes the lovebirds to Mitch, you can see how manipulative she is yet again, kind of like with, this is like a lovely little island, isn't it, kind of thing, where it's quite tight-knit, it's like a seaside coast, and everybody knows everybody, and, you know, but she goes in, and she's like straight away asking all these questions, getting people to hire a boat. Then she goes up to the teacher and asking what Mitch's sister's called, kind of prying for information. And these people are such nice people in the community that I don't really think they know what to do with the city girl and how to deal with her.
She very much stands out from everybody in there, especially when she first arrives, and they're kind of thinking, like, why is she wearing, like, high heels and this fancy green outfit that she's...
Which she didn't get changed from, does she? Literally, she has, like, 2 outfit changes in the entire movie.
Yeah.
I noticed that and I was like, is that a low budget thing, or is that because...
That's because of how the situation progresses with her basically not thinking she's going to be staying the weekend.
So she doesn't actually get, like, you know, like Grace Kelly in hers, she's got, like, lovely outfits and such. Whereas literally she's allowed 2 outfits and that's about it. That's your limit.
Yeah.
So you get this development with
Annie Hayworth.
She's lovely. She's such a lovely character. I feel like she's one of the nicest characters we've got. And you can see that she's kind of intrigued to know why she's here and what her relationship or connection is with Mitch.
Yeah, which you kind of find out later is she was history repeating itself because she was up here to see Mitch after a sort of relationship they had together, and now she's just rooted herself in this little seaside town.
Because she wants to be nearby him, even though she's not in a relationship with him. So it's hard for her to watch this kind of relationship unfold, because obviously that's what she's wanted. There's also an issue with the mother of Mitch, where she's quite, not obsessive, but doesn't want to be abandoned or left alone.
Yeah, so she's quite controlling over who he seems to be interested in. Like, you know, like, are you going to take my boy away kind of thing?
Yeah.
Because I've got nobody, because of her husband, his father passed away a few years ago, we learn.
We do, so she kind of is always comparing Mitch to her husband and wanting him to step into those shoes, so to speak, which I think is a bit of a big ask. You know, he can be there for her, but he can't replace the person that she's lost. So she doesn't approve of anybody, really. And she really doesn't approve of Melanie, because she seems like she's... I think what we'd call her in our terms is she's like an it girl. Mm-hmm. She's one of those that daddy's really rich. She doesn't really have a job because she doesn't need to have a job.
Yeah.
She's getting paparazzi'd kind of by the news, and you hear that she's flaunting around in a fountain naked and stuff. So she's not the kind of girl you'd really want to take home to your mum. Probably not, because of all the publicity you're reading in the newspapers. But obviously everybody's aware of who she is. So I think the mum wasn't best pleased with that part.
Before she meets Mitch's family, there was the first instance where any sign of bird attack happens is obviously when she's rowing, or where he pursues her back to the other side of the island where the dock in the boat is, and then this gull just randomly flies down and
hits her while she's in the boat, and she bleeds quite dramatically. But it doesn't seem very realistic at this point. You're not really thinking, oh, it's quite that scary. It just looks like this bird's bumped into her and it's been a bit dazed or something. Mm-hmm. You don't really think much of it, really, until it gets further on the line. So there is another instance when she's now asking Annie if she can stay in her, like, visitor's room kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because she didn't think she was going to stay as long. And you hear this kind of, like, knock into the door, which is obviously like another gull that's just seemed to have lost its way and kind of looked like in a bit of a daze. And I think for me personally, I can understand why it might have been scary for my mum back then.
So it came out in 1963.
She's 59 when she was born.
Okay, so it might have been a couple of years after that then, I suppose.
Yeah.
After the film released.
To be honest, yeah, it will have looked realistic when it was out and about, really, for people watching it. I'd gone in with intentions that this was going to be like a really, really scary movie.
Right, okay.
So like my mum was like, oh, it really scared. So I'm thinking, oh, well, if it scared my mum, it's going to scare me.
Yeah, I know when people can say things like that, especially if they're much older properties, that they might not be inherently scary to a modern audience because of the fact of some things may have been deemed shocking at the time, but not necessarily having a lasting impression as the years go on and on. Which
I don't think the birds looked that realistic, to be fair. I know, obviously, for the age of the film and everything like that, they have done the best they can, and back then it probably would have looked quite appealing.
Especially this time, what kind of suffers a little bit is, it's just a shame really, but because of the fact that this was from a Blu-ray disc, and obviously, you know, the normal stuff where the people are talking and stuff, that all looks great.
Yeah, it does.
But
it really does.
Sadly, the effects don't show up as well in the transfer of that when you've got them on like rear screen projection and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of suffers there because like, oh yeah, you can definitely see that's just been laid over the top of the footage or what. So it's kind of like makes it a bit less. So yeah, you can see that's some of the realism is lost.
Yeah, I think so. For me, it definitely was. But it didn't take away from the actual storyline, the story and the plot, and the fact that there were, like, I know it sounds really daft. I love waking up to listening to like the morning chorus kind of thing. That really is enjoyable for me. So to think of birds kind of being a vicious kind of creature that would just come out of its way to attack you is just kind of a bit absurd to me. It's like, don't be daft, a bird wouldn't do that. Don't get me wrong, I know when you go into the seaside and you have your fish and chips, a seagull will come for your food. I'm not saying all birds are roses, but like a sparrow or...
Like the ones that enter Mitch's house at one point, don't they? After the incident with the kids at the party and there's all the other seagulls and stuff start attacking them as well.
But I don't think a sparrow really would be something I'd be afraid of. Like a crow, I feel I get that kind of eeriness about a crow.
Yeah.
Seagulls, I just think they're quite cheeky and funny. So I think I do quite like birds. Like I did say to you, I've got quite a bit of fondness of pigeons, haven't I? So it's like, I know that sounds really strange because people just think of them as flying rats and vermin, but to me they are quite nice creatures and they're quite intelligent.
And homing pigeons in the war, so
yeah. So I think, to be honest, I was like, oh Paul, please don't tell me there's any pigeons attacking somebody. I can't seem to cope with that one. Certain scenes, kind of initially when you're watching, it's like, oh well, there's a seagull bumping into it. Then there's the sparrows, and you're not feeling that kind of eeriness of the birds as of yet coming to light. I think you get that with the playground
one in particular, with
scene.
Obviously, black crows just sitting on a massing around there, and it doesn't help when the fact that when Melanie's sitting outside the school and there's the kids singing that kind of like nursery rhyme lullaby type drone, and that's kind of showing it. I guess there was a kind of clever shot there, isn't there, when it's kind of like she's just sitting there in a smoke, and then you see one crow and then like another couple of crows thing, then cuts away, and then Melanie clocks one of the crows flying over, you kind of like following it around, and then suddenly you realise, oh, where have these other ones come from? You didn't hear them landing or anything. It's just quite
eerie. I think it's really eerie, and I think, like you're saying, with the music from the nursery rhyme, it's kind of making it a bit more sinister in a sense. It's like kind of contrast. Also, I've noticed as well how glamorized smoking was. Like, she looked so pretty smoking, and it's like, because obviously around back then, it wasn't
a big thing. Yeah, it was a big thing, wasn't it? You were a certain class, level of class. Having a cigarette would make you look sophisticated.
Yeah, which nowadays I don't think that stands anymore.
Reason, no.
It seems bizarre for me to think that nowadays.
Right.
But I kind of see why, if you were younger and this film was out, how you would think, oh, well, I'm going to do that because she looks beautiful doing that, if you get where I'm coming from. So I think this is where it starts to get a little bit darker in the movie. This is where the sinister kind of side comes into it.
Yeah.
You do get one kind of glimpse earlier on with when Mitch's mum goes and sees the bird feeder provider.
Yeah.
And that's like the most goriest one, I'd say.
Yeah, although you can... I know it's very quick when it kind of pans over to him and he's in the bed with his... what seems like his eyes goes out, but it's really just black makeup over his eye sockets rather than...
pecked out eyes.
Yeah.
Because I straight away was like, oh my god, he's pecked out his eyes. And I was like, blah, I can't cope with this.
Yeah, so, but again, I think that kind of helps seeing that more from the light of what it is for the transfer, whereas obviously if it's back when it was originally shown, it'd probably be more thinking like, oh my gosh, that's actually...
happened.
Yeah.
So you kind of get into a point of where people are now getting a little bit worried and concerned. And basically Melanie is kind of trying to tell people in this cafe.
Yeah, because she calls her dad saying that there's these crows have been attacking children, and then this old lady comes in and they say, well, this is impossible kind of thing.
Crows don't birds don't do that. And which I understand, like, if you haven't seen it, it would sound a bit bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, a bird isn't really a malicious creature. Apart from, like, obviously you've got your vultures and such. But, you know, like a generic bird, you wouldn't really be normally scared of.
Well, it's around this point where there's 3 instances where it's kind of... I guess it was supposed to be taking me seriously a little bit, but I always find it always sticks in my mind when I rewatch it. There's the part where there's that man, initially when the person's filling up the gas in the car.
Oh, yeah.
And a seagull swoops down and kind of just clobbers him, knocks him out in the head. It's like, doo, doo, kind of thing. I find that kind of funny, a bit like someone just throwing a ball at his head and knocked him.
Doesn't seem realistically like that would happen, but yeah.
And then there was this gasoline leaks down the hill. One of the people outside is having a smoke, and that blows up him because he puts his match out and throws it forward like they do back then. Kind of just sort of...
sets everything on fire.
But that's not the bit. It's more the bit where, I don't know if you did clock or not, it's kind of like, obviously the stream of fire is now going up back to the car where the gasoline's coming from. And it kind of like, I'm guessing supposed to be like freeze framing as it's going along, where Melanie's kind of like looking like gape mouthed, but kind of like cuts the gasoline moving along. Like a kind of gape and then like thing, and it's kind of, I kind of find that kind of funny. I know that's probably the technique was trying to do like almost like a no kind of slow down thing, but
make it a bit more intense, kind of, so to speak. But it did have a bit of a comical feel to the action, because it was like you said, with the gull hitting the man, and then just ironically there's a man gonna put a match out, and it was like kind of
set up like some kind of Tom and Jerry cartoon or something.
Yeah. Like, this isn't real life, this isn't, is it? You can tell.
Yeah. The other bit, which is, I suppose, again, kind of come a bit more serious and dramatic, in a sense, after the whole carnage with the seagulls now attacking more of the village folk, and after Melly's in the phone booth going with the gull smashing against her and all that stuff, again, not looking particularly...
distressed.
Well, she is distressed, but the fact that, the seagulls don't look too realistic again, sadly, that's
But I don't understand why she's trying to get out of the phone box. She seemed to be okay in there, and she's like...
Yeah, but I think...
keeps opening the door, and then she's like, oh, and it's like, well, obviously you can see the birds are flying still.
Yeah, no, but like, she's just trying to get away, but it's
I'd have just sat down and been like...
oh, God.
Yeah.
But after all that, obviously when they were having this discussion in the cafe initially, and there's that mother who's quite distressed about, like, with the children. Oh, can you please not think you're scaring the children?
Yeah.
She's quite worried, and they go back into the cafe after the carnage has happened, and everybody's kind of looking at Melanie, almost like, and almost looking at you, as if towards the camera.
Yeah.
And the concerned mother was almost like, again, like looking almost like dead at the camera, as in like, kind of like, why is this happening? Why are they doing this? I think you're to blame, kind of thing. That kind of like that thing. But the funny bit, this is long-winded going around this, but the funny bit is kind of like, I think you're evil, and then she's like, again. I'm guessing that was supposed to be a very dramatic, like, tense moment, but
definitely.
I kind of just find it funny. I know it's not.
No, it was a little bit funny, and the fact is, I do think actually Melanie had something to do with these birds, because she brought the lovebirds. Because, like they're saying, to be fair to the town, it was all fine until she came along in a green outfit and decided to snooty up the place. But I don't think the woman deserved a slap, really. I think
she's been a bit hysterical, like, get a hold of yourself kind of thing, but yeah.
Not needed, really. You can tell what kind of character Melanie is for doing that, really. So you kind of then get where Mitch is getting more and more fond of Melanie, because obviously she's looked after his mum, she's looking after Kathy, she's kind of acting like a really, really good figure to them both.
Yeah.
You get to a bit of a sad scene where Annie obviously is no longer, because she gets attacked by the birds trying to rescue Kathy.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Which you can kind of see Mitch is quite upset about.
Yeah, because he almost decides to throw a rock at one of the crows, and I'm thinking, well, what good's that going to do? He's just going to get attacked.
It would have been not a good idea.
Yeah. So, yeah, that is quite a sad... That's probably one of the characters you care about the most, really, for any sort of... Because, again, she's kind of... She was downplayed a little bit, really, but you've kind of felt...
You felt...
Something for her, because she kind of was most down to earth.
Typical British, we go for the underdog, and it's a case of she did seem to really like Mitch. She was genuine as well.
Yeah.
She was just a nice character who was not a liar, wasn't deceitful and kind of false and pretentious.
Yeah.
So now we're getting to a point of where
they're boarding up Mitch's house.
This is getting to the final bit where it's getting a bit intense and a bit like... So you're bordering all of them up, and then all these birds are still pecking. They come, don't they? And they're pecking away. And it's like, there's loads of them. Like... What the heck is going on? What makes the birds go crazy?
Yeah. And this time, I guess one of the scariest parts of this, I think, really, because this time, and I guess it helps with the good sound system, because the sound was really harrowing in this. Again, there's genuine... You're obviously not really seeing anything as such, because it's all boarded up, other than certain things like birds pecking through the wooden door and all that stuff. But the sound is really horrifying.
It is.
And that's kind of like gets to you, because it's like, I don't know where's they're coming in from, where it is. So that's the scariest part of...
I'll agree to that completely, because funnily enough, when we went outside today, and it was the crow, and it sounds daft. Any other bird that tweeted or anything like that, it didn't really bother me. It was when the crows were going, and I was like, the birds. I was like, so obviously it did kind of linger to a bit of a scared kind of thing in my head for me to straight away think of the crows to be vicious. But it is quite cleverly done, the sound effect of the birds, and obviously the fact is they're coming from every angle trying to get in. But what my thing is with this film is, why are the birds deciding to just go complete crazy and loony, and why are they wanting to kill the humans? Do they know they're actually doing that, or is something in the air that's made them just go schizophrenic kind of thing, like psycho and a bit deranged or something? So basically, they do survive quite well in the house. Melanie, it's her own fault what happens to her later on, I feel. She shouldn't have gone looking for the flapping. She should have left that door shut.
Yeah.
Why did she go in and then get near enough pecked to death?
Interesting enough, that scene, I know that Hitchcock did like various takes of that to get the, like I say, the best out of her, and the like the fear of like no, that so multiple takes to make her thing. So I think there'd be some real birds in amongst all the fake ones as well. So there's a lot of flapping and things to make a genuinely scared performance from her. So which is kind of like, yeah, it's good, but also it's quite like a kind of pushing your luck here a little bit, trying to get that level of a performance, fear out of you. But
I do think, to be honest, it was a daftish scene because it's like, well, obviously it shows that Melanie doesn't have any common sense because, like, a door, if you're hearing flapping, I'd keep the door shut. I won't open it up so that it would go into the entire house, and then thinking, and then shut myself into the room that the loads of birds are in. Yeah. I was just like, I'm not understanding what's going on here. Yeah. Obviously, Mitch comes in and saves the day and tries to rescue her. Yeah. But you kind of get to a point of where it's like, oh, now they've got to go outside and take her to the hospital. Yeah. And then it just ends there, doesn't it? So is she all right? Do we know that? Does she die? I don't really care if she does die because I don't really like her. So we're like, well, to be honest, I think you are the reason for the birds, but I'm none the wiser if she is. Because it's like, well, that doesn't really make it, there's no apparent reason to why. Mm-hmm. And I think I was all the way through the film, everyone was keeping asking that question, and I thought maybe I'd have got the answer at the end, but you don't. Yeah. And I just looked at you like, well, what's wrong with the birds? What, why are they doing this? So it's kind of like one of those, you have to either make it up yourself. Does it get resolved? Do the birds calm down? Can you go back to the bay and everything be okay? Or I felt like I was just like, I did say to you, I was like, please don't end this way, and you're just like smirking at me now because you know.
Yeah, no, because I had a similar thing like I mentioned to you after we'd done, and I said when I'd first saw it for the first time years and years ago when I had it recorded from the TV, and sometimes it can either, depending on how the TV program's running, can get cut off with the TV scheduling. So for whatever reason, for this film, it did do that, where it was about the point where Melly starts getting attacked by the birds in the attic, in the bedroom, sorry. And I'm thinking, oh, what? I need to know what happens. Like, does she die? Does what,
is she okay?
What happens? Yeah. What happens from there? So then, years later, when I come to find out that I was not far off from the ending, and it was literally just drive off
still
in the car and thinking, well, what's going on here? Why is there no explanation? And there's a bit of a trolling thing that Hitchcock's done. It's like, well, what? No, please, can I have some sort of explanation?
But like, no. To know that the bay's fine and there's no birds and it was to do with migration or something like that, or
some
food that was off, or something that made him go psycho. I don't know, anything to just understand why the birds
did what they did, but no, you don't know. So
don't get me wrong, I don't want a happy ending of Melanie being okay and her being with Midge. Not bothered about that really. If she died, then
the only sense of like there's something developing there is that when she kind of like holds Lydia, she holds her hand kind of thing, like in like a you're accepting of me now kind of thing.
Now that she's gonna kind of not be there anymore, possibly. It's okay. Yeah, I'll hold your hand. You're about to die.
Well, she wouldn't have done that badly. She's just a bit traumatised and a bit scratched on the head. I don't think.
No, she looks a little bit like when she'd got like a bit of a concussion, hadn't she?
I don't think that's.
Because then when she came out and she was yelling, no, about the birds, and it's like, shut up, woman.
So you like having that going on and you not being traumatised. Imagine if a load of spiders came.
No, but you'd have to be quiet, wouldn't you, with the birds? Spiders, I don't know if you'd have to be quiet or not. I don't know. I don't know what.
No, but I'm saying just like if you were then had to walk through spiders and you just had a load of spiders.
You'd have to put your hand over my mouth, wouldn't you?
Anyway.
Yeah, so I was a bit like really, really enjoyed this film until it came to the end. For me, if you had to say which one between the Rear Window and the birds.
Yeah, Rear Windows winning at the moment, yeah.
No brainer.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go for your score then, if you're okay to do that.
Yeah. Obviously, for the age of the film and the storyline and the concept is really, really cleverly done. The way that they are getting a bird to become like a scary monster.
Yeah.
So to speak. So I think that is interesting to see. It's like getting some snails or something, and then them becoming like vicious snails. It's like the idea of that sounds bizarre and daft.
Yeah, that's very B-movie, that is.
But, you know, with the birds, it does actually get you to get frightened of these creatures, which are normally loved, you know.
Yeah.
So I think the concept behind it is really, really interesting. For me, the ending massively lets it drop.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Melanie, she's the main leading lady, and she is annoying. I do not like her, and it's like, so I'm watching this film and I'm like, this person is really grating on my nerves.
It was the first roles of actual film.
Like, don't get me wrong, she might be a really, really nice person, but the character she was portraying wasn't my cup of tea, I guess.
I get where you're coming from.
I couldn't sit with her and have a cup of tea with her because I would not have anything in common with her. So I think for me, definitely the ending makes it a bit worse. I think I'd probably say a 7. It's no Rear Window.
Okay, that's fair enough.
What about you?
I'll go a little bit higher and go with an 8. There was still the factor of certain things this time on this viewing, like like I mentioned about the soundscape of the birds when they're completely isolated within the house. That was really that was genuinely terrifying this time around. The whole concept behind, like you say, making the birds the monster in this, and so I guess the horror element to that draws me back in with it.
Sure, it's not the chick flick side of it, with the romance between Melanie and Mitch.
Nah, that's not.
It's not luring, you know?
No, that could. I'm trying to think of how that would be sped up any further, really, but I don't think you could cut that down in a way that makes it get to the incident with the birds first attacking any sooner. I don't think it's not particularly possible.
No, it's well done the way that they do the bird part.
Yeah.
But I do think it is long-winded with the romance story.
Yeah, it does take a while to get into it, I guess. And a bit of a letdown, which is kind of daft, really, because the definition is supposed to make things better for you, but which is fine, like I say, when it's just people talking to other people and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes, sometimes when you're applying old effects to a new format, it doesn't transfer very well. Yeah. So that's kind of a knockdown on that, really, unfortunately. So.
And the ending, well.
And of course, the ending, is a bit ambiguous about what the thing, but I can only think it's something to do with mass poisoning or something, so they're making them all delusional and crazy. But because I'm going through, there must be some correlation between, what is she? Something that Melanie's doing that's triggering this, but it can't be the lovebirds because
they don't do anything.
They don't do anything. They don't make any noise or anything, except for when they were in the house initially, when Kathy says, "Oh, listen to those birds," and then suddenly all the little birds start flocking in from the big house. But there was other instances like the lovebirds were nowhere near them at the cafe when the seagulls start attacking the bay and all that stuff. So you're kind of thinking, what's the thing? And then I'm thinking, is there maybe some deeper metaphor for what's some representation of what she is to, I don't know, that's kind of
I know what you mean, and as well with the lovebirds I felt like there might have been something more, like when they were driving off, that the lovebirds would attack, but they don't.
Go savage and
like in the car or something, and then that's
go off the cliff.
So I did expect something from the lovebirds, but I didn't get anything. So it was like to say that they were the main thing,
they're driving the plot. They were sort of a MacGuffin, even though you knew what they were, but they kind of just wasn't like a mysterious thing, but they kind of were because they were there at the beginning and they were there at the end the whole way through, but nothing came
happened.
of it.
No.
So, yeah.
So yeah, that's my thoughts. I can't wait to know what his next one is.
Well, you should like it. It's another, like, well, I guess Hitchcock does mostly thrillers, but this one is a bit more of a little more of a thinky one. And it's got James Stewart in again.
That sounds good then. I do like him, so that might sway me a little bit more, which, probably will. So I'm looking forward to that then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be good. So thank you so much for listening to us. I hope you've enjoyed what we've had to say. Slagging off
one of the classics.
Yeah. Sorry, I do like to know a coherent ending of what, at least tell me why the birds did what they did. That's my main gripe. But anyways.
Yes, thank you very much for listening to us. And of course you can listen to our other episodes on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and wherever else you might get your podcasts from. And of course, we're also on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook under the handle SP Film Viewers.
So thank you again, and we'll speak to you next time.
Speak to you next time. Take care now.
Take care now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.